another thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good at it. How are you?
Yeah, doing good, thank you. Doing good. How about you?
I am fine, thank you. We've just organised some meals, which is great. So I know what I'm having for tea now. That has been an unknown for a whole, a long time. And it's a worry.
And you've resurrected your log fire.
Yeah, that's a skill, isn't it, in itself? Feeling pretty accomplished for a Thursday evening. Yeah.
Not so bad, eh?
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've done the day of work and I have managed to walk the dog despite the rain, which I wasn't super keen.
Oh,
It
it's not
was
here.
exactly the point when I wanted to go out on dog walk. It went, here's some rain for that. But yeah, that's okay. That's not a problem.
Do you have daffodils in your garden?
They haven't opened yet, but I can see them
You can
growing.
see them.
Yeah,
And
how about you?
Are they scattered, or have you got like along a row?
They were planted by the people we bought from in a way that frustrates me because it's in the grass along the edge of a patio. So if you want to mow the grass, you have to cut them down, or you could just leave the grass scraggly, but then they're in like a weed pit.
I think you should in your garden do a valley of daffodils.
And valley?
Yeah.
Because that sounds like a lot of work.
Well, it's worth it. It's worth the joy for like the 10 days they're all out, and then it's beautiful. There's a National Trust place near Milton Keynes that does a valley of daffodils. Maybe not near, but somewhere. And it's amazing. And it's beautiful. I've got such a cute picture of Jam just sat in this field of daffodils.
That sounds adorable. And it does tips the scale a bit, because I'm going to be honest with you, the idea of doing any kind of gardening, let alone meaningful intensive gardening for 10 days of results is
maybe 10 days is too short. Maybe it's not 10 days, but you only have to do it once, don't you? And then daffodils.
That's true. They then like self-propagate, or
they're very clever.
That does actually that helps tip the scales as well.
That could be a future episode, because I think the lady who discovered how a daffodil works, that bit you were talking about, that regulation, I think it was a lady. I'm sure.
Isn't that
something on
well?
Oh, maybe we've opened up the next episode already. Oh,
yes, that is very seasonal and appropriate.
Okay, all right, we'll keep that in the bag.
Well, that's very jolly and cheerful, and today we are kind of going in a slightly different direction to that, because the subject we're talking about is quite sort of wry and acerbic.
Okay.
So, shall we begin?
Yeah, I'm ready.
And
let's go.
We're beginning straight out of the gate with a quote. We're straight into it, and it's a bit dark and twisty, so brace, but if you would, when you're ready.
Razors pain you, rivers are damp, acid stains you, and drugs cause cramp. Guns aren't lawful, nooses give. Gas smells awful, you might as well live. Oh my God, Cara.
Yeah, so
what are you doing?
This is the absolutely iconic inky black humor of Dorothy Parker and her poem Resume. I feel that poem is as provocative and fresh today as it was when it was written, which was 100 years ago. It's 100 years old. So she was known as a poet, as a sort of a bright, sparkling wit, a darling of the Algonquin Round Table. She had a joke for every moment. Often
she was sassy,
quite dark. She was very sassy. But today we're going to look at the person behind the sass, a little bit more of an in-depth, emotional and social view, and I think she would hate it. So we're going to do it anyway. Our sources for today are the Jewish Women's Archive, BBC Culture article, an article from the New York Post, and a blog about socialism, fascism, racism, and Dorothy Parker, which kind of gives you a hint which direction this is going in. We are also going to look at something from the Smithsonian about how the FBI looked into Miss Dorothy Parker. But before we get into all of that, we'll go back to the beginning. She was born in 1893 in New Jersey. She was born 2 months premature, and her line about that was the last time I was early for anything. And she was raised by her Jewish father and Scottish mother in Manhattan. And like many of the women we talk about, her life was marked quite early on by tragedy. She describes herself as having been a plain, disagreeable child with stringy hair and an urge to write poetry. And sadly, her mother died before she even turned 5. And then when she was 14, her father became very ill and she ended up having to leave school, which, as a bookish person, would have been a great sadness for her. He ultimately died in 1913 when she was just 20. And by that point, his business, he had a really successful textiles business, and it had failed by the time he became ill and died. So really suddenly, she found herself without family and without any financial means. So she needed to get out there and find a job. I feel like these elements come up again and again in the stories that we're talking about. And I guess it's these extraordinary challenges that make extraordinary people. But
yeah, I heard once that pain is a bigger driver than joy. You know what I mean? So pain pushes you to do things in a lot more more quickly, more determined way than
I can see that.
So if you're going for something because you like it, like I really want to become, I don't know, a gold Olympian gymnast because I like it. But actually, if that's your only way to survive, for whatever reason, that's more of a driver.
It makes sense.
I heard that before, yeah.
If you have a choice, you might think, well,
you would want the comfortable route. Of course you would.
Right? Yeah. Or, oh, I'm really not good enough. Whereas if you have no choice, you would just go for it because you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I mean, with that in mind, she didn't initially launch herself as a poet. She started in a safe job, which was for her a pianist at a local dance school. She also hitched her wagon to a chappie who she met called Edwin Parker, who unfortunately in time would turn out to be pretty unreliable. He was an alcoholic, a morphine addict, and a stockbroker. And eventually he died.
That is a risky
in that order.
trio, that is.
I know, right? God. He died of an overdose, but the relationship was so strained that they would divorce before that ever came about.
Oh, okay.
And that was kind of, unfortunately, her pattern with men that continued through her whole life. She would marry again later. We'll talk about that in a bit. But once again, that second husband was someone who used drink and drugs. He was maybe not a cheat, but definitely an outrageous flirt. And nevertheless, she married him twice. So she was one for the doomed relationship, and she recognized it about herself, that she had this weakness. I've got a quote here of how she puts it.
Men can take me or leave me, or, as is the usual order of things, both. Yeah, I like this self-awareness. That's twice she's been quite self-aware, be able to poke fun at herself, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. Exactly. Yeah. And that was something she was absolutely known for. And through all of those challenges and tragedies and so on, she wrote poems, she wrote stories. And shortly after she divorced her first husband, that poetry let her break out as a professional writer, which was what she always wanted. Mm-hmm. So she submitted one of her poems to Vanity Fair and then ended up, off the back of that, getting a full-time job as a caption writer at Vogue, which was at the time being managed by the same team. So yeah, she then bounced from that to a position as a staff writer back at Vanity Fair. And there's a big quote there that sort of summarizes her career, if you don't mind.
The 1920s were to be Parker's decade. She published some 300 poems and verses in various magazines, and in 1926, her first volume of poetry became a bestseller. At the same time, she was contributing short stories to The New Yorker, whose tone she helped shape from its launch in 1925. And of course, it was during those years that she became part of the Ultimate In crowd, the informal literary luncheon club that sprang up at the Algonquin Hotel and became known as the Round Table. I've never heard of the Algonquin thing. That's twice.
Yeah, so this is Roaring Twenties. I
Mm-hmm.
think we may have mentioned it in the Texas Gwinnett episode
Mm-hmm.
because it was sort of same time, sort of the same place, same definitely the same social set. And
Oh, okay.
the Algonquin Hotel was a sort of fabulous New York place, a lovely salon,
Mm.
and they would come along, these different stars from the creative arts, from the world of acting, writers, and basically they would turn up, they would crack jokes, they would drink, they would try to sort of score points off each other by saying the wittiest thing. It sounds delightful and exhausting. Like I would want to be there as a waitress, not. I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this
Quite almost like academic in a way. Like you have
very
to be
intellectual.
smart to be doing these ps, and if I come
Precisely, you
mock
have
the
to be
week, I
quick.
can't. Nah, I need time to reflect. And come back
So you'd think of something to say, but on your drive home, you'd
in
be
the
like, "Oh,
shower.
that
Three
would have
days
been
later, and then the
absolutely."
moment's gone. No.
It's not for us. I think so. This is where she thrives. She's in this world. It's mostly men. They're all quite trying to outdo each other. People whose names are familiar to us even now, real wits like Wodehouse or Fitzgerald or Noel
Oh,
Coward, and a few women as well, including Parker. And she was so in her element because her own brand of humor, which you've seen already in the quotes and poems we've seen, is really at times quite vicious. She even ended up getting herself fired from that delicious Vanity Fair job because she
ah,
made an ill-judged comment about the wife of one of the editors. But at the round table, that was sort of encouraged and rewarded, that edgy, humor. I know. And because they're all writers and media types, the jokes and stories and toasts that they did were too good to just keep to themselves. They ended up publishing a newsletter
love
saying who said what,
like
this
a
is what went
society
on.
paper. Yeah.
Just a bit pop bitch, yeah, just kind of getting it all out there, a society paper, but then it was distributed to the wider world. So all the things that people had said, some of the things probably knowing writers that they wish they had said and they like tucked in after the fact. So to give you a flavor, I thought we would go back and forth and read a couple of the Dorothy Parker lines from that period. Are you up for
Okay.
it?
Yeah. I know the things I know, and I do the things I do. And if you do not like me, so to hell my love with you.
So there you go. Asked to use the word horticulture in a sentence, her response was, "You can lead a horticulture, but you can't make her think."
Love, 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 love. He and I had an office so tiny that an inch smaller and it would have been adultery.
Quite like that. I like to have a martini, 2 at the very most. After 3, I'm under the table. After 4, I'm under the host.
That woman speaks 18 languages and can't say no in any of them.
I require 3 things in a man. He must be handsome, ruthless, and stupid.
Beauty is only skin deep, but ugly goes clean to the bone.
They're
Damn.
zingers. Yeah, nobody's spared,
Yes.
not even herself. And I mean,
Yeah.
her jokes about women have led to some modern criticism from
Mm-hmm.
feminists. But I mean, I feel the fact that she goes after everybody, and in my mind at least, that gives her a little bit of leeway when she's turning it on herself as well.
Again, it's that awareness, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
such a endearing trait in
I
someone.
think I
Yeah.
quite agree. And in her time as well, no feathers would have been ruffled by sexist jokes. You know,
Yeah, of course.
she is of her time. Oh, and speaking of her time, so she did overlap with Texas Gwynn. She also overlaps almost directly, I think, with Caroline Hazlitt, who we talked about last week.
Nice.
Such a different life happening at the same exact time.
Yeah. And
But
different cities, I guess, like New York was free and fancy. Yeah.
Different types of people as well. I mean, very, very different types of people. Caroline was a very serious and studious person. Dorothy Parker was an intellectual, but quite unserious in some ways. And you may remember, and you may know, that at this period in America, in the sort of 1920s into the run-up of the 1930s, it was that golden age of cinema. So the boom had started, movies with sound were just beginning to be produced, so there's this sudden surge of demand for writers on the West Coast, people in particular who could turn out really captivating dialogue. So Dorothy Parker was not super keen on film. She considered it to be fluff, this like lower form of art.
No way.
Yeah, because she's a poet, she's a playwright, she's a bestseller, she's a literary bud, and she's also extremely busy drinking. Like, she and her buddies are in New York having a whale of a time.
Yeah.
And furthermore, she apparently hated Los Angeles itself and wouldn't even say the words Los Angeles. She just called it over there.
She sounds such a snob.
She is. She's a woman of certain discernment, but eventually she was seduced. And I think from reading about it, what swung it for her was the fact that several of her Algonquin Round Table contemporaries started doing movie screenwriting, which legitimized it.
Yeah.
Serious people who were serious writers were doing it. And then one of her personal rivals, a woman called Anita Luce, started doing it. And I think that was like, oh.
It's the fire. That's what it takes.
The final straw was that the film producers offered her $4,700 a week in today's money to do this screenwriting.
Oh.
And for a woman in financial distress, that's like a lot of reasons to say yes. So
of course,
off she went. And this is the point where she meets...
too.
Oh my God, you just would. You just would. And she was more than up to the task. She moved out to the West Coast and she met that second husband that I mentioned at the beginning, the one who she eventually would marry, divorce, and then live together. In between all of the romantic turmoil and drama, they made a good team. His name was Alan Campbell. He was an actor, but also a writer. And between the two of them, they negotiated a script with the movie studios whereby they would negotiated a contract, where they would write scripts together. He would do the plotting, she would do the dialogue, and they would kind of collaborate in that way. And they made a lot of popular movies. They were not always credited, but they had this kind of trademark Dorothy Parker feel to these characters and the sassy jokes and the kind of just that like witty, quick, sparkling, cutting repartee. It wasn't her joy. And unfortunately, her life continued to be difficult even as she was out there successful and earning. It still didn't give her the kind of stability financially or personally that you would have wanted. So there's a little quote here.
She self-medicated. She wasn't a writer with a drinking problem, she joked, but a drinker with a writing problem, and chronically mismanaged her financial affairs. Twice she attempted suicide, and she became pregnant at 42, only to miscarry a few months later.
So, for all the jokes, she was living through really hard times. And a lot of the struggles that she lived through are reflected in the characters she wrote. And the movie script that gained her the most acclaim, she and Campbell, in fact, got an Oscar nomination for, was A Star is Born, which was first made in 1937, but most recently remade in 2018 with Lady Gaga starring.
Yes.
Have you seen it? Well. You know it. Excellent. We do know it well.
We sing. What do we sing? Die with a Smile.
And Shallows as well. That's the other big
Yes, that's the
banger
big one.
from that one. You know, from seeing it, from singing the songs, it deals with the personal cost of fame and stardom and kind of that concept of selling out and alcoholism and many of the demons that Parker herself was obviously really personally deeply familiar with. So she's said to have hated working in Hollywood, but also relied on it. It seems that her marriage to Campbell had the same sort of dynamic. They were living together in the end, I think after separating again, when he eventually died of a drug overdose. And this was the point where Dorothy Parker just moved back to New York. During all of which time, a lot of upheaval and a lot of change, there's one more sort of twist in the tale, because as well as the creative writing and that sort of schmoozing with the icons of the day, the movie writing, Dorothy Parker also had this strand in her life and this kind of affinity for social change. And it was something that was like a quieter thread, but she was not holding back. She, in her published work, right from the 1920s onwards, she would address things about things that struck her as wrong. So in the 1920s, she was one of the people who were arrested for protesting the arrests of these two men called Sacco and Vanzetti. It was quite a famous case where these two Italian-American men were accused of socialist violence, and their trial became this sort of byword for scapegoating of immigrants because the case against them was really flimsy. There was a lot of suggested corruption. So anyway, she was protesting it. She was threatened with arrest, and she said, "Yep, arrest me then, because this is worth." Meanwhile, Texas Gwynnon is like, "Yeah, arrest me. I'm running a speakeasy." Dorothy Parker, for all of her jokes and drinking and pissing about, actually did care quite deeply about things. She was a founder, when in Hollywood, of the Anti-Nazi League. She was openly supportive of her gay friends and colleagues. Her quote about it was, "Heterosexuality is not normal, it's just common." And
love that.
I know, in that time as well.
We should use that today. That's really good.
Yeah, just because it's happening everywhere doesn't
just
mean
because
it's
you're
the norm.
normalized to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just because you see it more. She spoke out about the lack of diversity in Broadway and in Hollywood, where at her time, in Broadway in particular, blackface was still a thing. And she was saying this is such a waste of talented Black actors. You are robbing people of these opportunities. And she went after it. She was a massive supporter of the Screenwriters Guild, which had just been formed at the time. And to support something like that when America had kind of turned a bit and unions were treated with some suspicion and contempt was really quite brave. When we're moving, in the post-war period into the 1950s, there's this rising fear of socialism and Russia and communism. And there's this really feverish persecution of anyone in the public eye who leaned left. So her taking a stand on these issues is really quite risky, but it feels like it just spurred her on. She carried on writing, she carried on lecturing, she carried on working with the unions.
Yeah, used it as a fuel.
She did.
She was like, "Let me at him," because I guess
just integrity.
Yeah, her talent was with a pen, right? And her talent was with words, and that's something that you can never stop someone doing, can you? So that's nice.
Very true. And I mean, ultimately, it led in the sort of McCarthy era to her being investigated by the FBI. They had a file on her.
What?
Whether she was potentially a communist, whether she was trying to urge communists. They had an entire dossier. They came to her house to investigate her, apparently, and while they were questioning her, her dog was jumping all over them. Mm-hmm. And there's a quote here about what happened.
When the agent asked if When the agent asked if she'd ever conspired to overthrow the government, Parker allegedly responded, "Listen, I can't even get my dog to stay down. do I look like someone who could overthrow the government?
Just love it. There's a gorgeous photo of her here with the little dog, clearly not giving a shit, lighting a cigarette.
What I'm loving about these photos is the aging process, like how graceful and real, I guess. This
It's
aging
gorgeous,
process
isn't it?
It's really beautiful. Yeah. I like that
I
a lot.
feel I felt the exact same way. I felt so pleased to see these pictures of her through the various phases of her life. And, you know, she looks like someone who has worn her body lightly and had good times and maybe not so good times. But yeah, it's also quite relevant, it feels like now, where in the times we live in, that somebody perhaps quite good at their job could still find themselves in a little bit of risk and danger just because their government does not like the kind of things that they're saying with their creative abilities. So
it happens in so many industries though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Anything art related, I guess.
It's quite troubling. Yeah, and I think artists in particular are driven to speak up, and certainly that was the case with her. And unfortunately, the consequence of that was, as we enter that period of the 1950s, Parker's career did begin to dry up. I mean, she had moved back to the East Coast, the work offers slowed down, and with the struggles that she had always had with money, and probably, I would think, from living a lifestyle that was sort of designed by and for folks who came from money, when she herself ended up really coming from nothing, she really struggled. But however much she struggled, she didn't back off. And those principles really stayed with her. She writes a lot about having seen the rise of fascism in Europe and being so passionate that America not go down that same road. She was also, as an intellectual, the kind of person who just could not stand the absurdity of racism, of xenophobia, and things like that causing other people's suffering. So the poem that you read at the beginning of this pod is called Resume, and it's a dark humor banger. If you're a bit of a sick little monkey, you probably are aware of it already, and quite fond I am. That poem is actually owned, the rights to it, by a charitable foundation in the USA called the NAACP. And if you're not familiar, or if you are, that is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. It is an august civil rights organization. It's the USA's largest civil rights organization. And it ended up owning all of the rights to Dorothy Parker's work because when she was reaching the later phases of her life, Dorothy Parker willed her entire estate, including all of her creative rights, to the civil rights leader Martin Luther King. And in the event of his death, that would then revert to the NAACP so that his work could continue. So,
this is a little twisteroo, isn't it?
It is a twist. Yeah. When she eventually died in 1967, her legacy was to do what she could to support social causes that she cared about deeply. And that continues to benefit those social causes and those people today.
So it sounds like she died right in the thick of it as well, like the civil rights movement. And isn't that fascinating that? Because also I was thinking about the world of rights back then. It must have been I don't know. It's still a hugely important thing today, isn't it? But I can imagine how that was her life's work. You know what I mean? Like, I guess it wasn't as widely available. I don't know.
It's so interesting though, because you just have...
It's a world I know nothing about as well, right? Really.
That time and place, there's so much going on. And she was living that kind of shrines of gaiety lifestyle where people are out drinking gimlets and having a lovely time and wearing fabulous gowns and making wonderful jokes. But at the same time, she had this really deeply serious thread of caring about people whose lives, through her lifestyle, she really would not have had day-to-day exposure to. So I think it's an act of tremendous, I don't know even what, empathy or openness or what, but for her to see beyond her own circumstances. And she would have been having a lovely time a lot of the time, but to go, okay, well, that's cool and all, but I still need to do something about the people who aren't having a lovely time, because it's not their fault, and it's not right, and it's not fair.
Just trust your internal compass, isn't it? Trust
exactly right. And like shift yourself to do something about it. So there's a plaque that the NAACP headquarters put up where her ashes were interred. And it says, here lie the ashes of Dorothy Parker, 1893 to 1967, humorist, writer, critic, defender of human and civil rights. For her epitaph, she suggested, "Excuse my dust." This memorial garden's dedicated to her noble spirit, which celebrated the oneness of humankind and to the bonds of everlasting friendship between Black and Jewish people. I mean,
I like defender of human and civil rights. That's quite a cool accolade.
The oneness of humankind. I mean, that for a woman who's known for making a couple of sassy jokes, that's not a bad life's work, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then beyond that social progress, there's her creative work, which still stands. It still speaks to a modern audience. I looked it up, and the version of A Star is Born that was remade in 2018 was nominated for 8 Oscars, including the Best Adapted Screenplay. So that's still her writing carrying through, again, like 100 years or so, 75.
It's fascinating, isn't it, that these stories keep being, and the stories must have something in them to keep being picked up and go again and again, and they must have something that I don't understand, not as a writer, but, you know, like Wuthering Heights is another one that has just been picked up again, and people want to put their own spin on it constantly, and there must be something integral in the plot line or the original that keeps with people.
I think you're exactly right. Yeah. I think it's, for her, I think it's a case that she was good at wordplay and she was good at jokes, but there is that little messy kernel of humanity that's underneath it all. And in fact, I'm really glad that you said that, because there's a quote from the BBC here about specifically what in her writing causes it to have this lasting relevance.
The BBC will tell me. Her stories feature female characters trying to square exhilarating new choices with the enduring constraints of societal expectation. Some of her heroines are lovelorn, suicide alcoholics, and others are undeniably strong characters. Temporarily untethered by hedonistic 20s, their lives embrace contradictions and challenges only too familiar to 21st century women. Right, let's dissect that, BBC. So what they're saying is people have relationships and people have, you know, relationships don't always work out. Lovelorn, suicidal alcoholics, still a thing today. Undeniably strong characters, still a thing today. Going through challenges, we still do that today. So I guess it's like interacting with the world, isn't it? And trying to make sense of the world. Yeah. And would you agree?
I absolutely agree. And coming to grips in, whether it's the 1920s or the 2020s, these times of immense social pressure and social change, where opportunities for women are there, but they're precarious and they come with cost. And so those characters and those stories, I think they're saying, still speak to us for all of those reasons, that, you know, their lives are not so dissimilar to ours. So of course they still resonate.
Yeah, I did like English lit at school. I liked it a lot. I don't know, I wasn't particularly strong at it, but I enjoyed it. But I felt, I don't know, there was definitely a right answer to put in your essays. You know what I mean? Like, you couldn't really draw your own conclusions. You had to draw the themes that they told you were right.
That is so interesting. See, my degree is English lit and philosophy. And the reason I liked that as a combo is it's the BA and BS. You can absolutely bullshit your way through it 100%. It's a skill that I still rely on every single day of my life. I think you can take a position on anything, and as long as you're happy to trot out a couple of little phrases that support it, and a bit of quote here and a bit of an explanation there, you're grand. So I think, that's very much my comfort zone.
I guess at A level they weren't teaching us that; they were teaching us how to pass. Yeah, but it's I get it though. I get it. And then I guess the more you do a story, the more controversy it has. Because thinking about those two films that we just mentioned, like The Star is Born did get a lot of controversy back in whatever it was, 2018, 2019. And Wuthering Heights is going through its own, rightfully so in my opinion, its own, backlash right now. So, it's free to interpretation, I guess, isn't it? If you've got the core elements there, which Dorothy was saying, Dorothy had that ability, then all the other can just be argued to the cows come home, right?
Absolutely. And I think what we are seeing, though, is in neither case, whatever controversies have arisen, in neither case, it's, well, this isn't relevant to our lives.
Yes.
This doesn't mean anything. What is this all about? So I think there is still something to dig into and to sort of sift through in those stories now.
And today we get funny memes about it, which I enjoy a lot, and that makes it better. Wuthering Heights ones have been particularly, savage.
As we are.
Fine.
We've strayed away from lovely Dorothy Parker onto all the different things that are coming back through currents in society. But I figure we should end as we started, with a quote from Dorothy Parker. And this was her talking about her own death and her final departure into the afterlife.
Wherever she went, including there, it was against her better judgment. Well, so
she's got a zinger for every occasion, but I hope that...
So she wrote that on her deathbed?
She wrote that about her own death. And
as if
imagining, this is what I imagine I will feel. The whole effort here, because I decided I wanted to write about her because I just think she's cool. And
but this is your vibe. You love a satirical little...
I do love a sassy, acidic. I do. Yeah. And I was so delighted and humbled to see how much more there was to her, like underneath it all. Mm-hmm.
That's a very nice little discovery, isn't it?
It sure was.
Yes.
So yes, there we have it, Miss Dorothy Parker. As was.
Didn't know that she wrote A Star is Born, and really put herself out there.
She also apparently, so there's more than one theory about this, but there's this phrase, friend of Dorothy, which was kind of a code word for being a gay man, particularly in the United States at a certain time in history. And the thing I had always heard was that it was Dorothy Gale, as in Somewhere Over the Rainbow and so on.
Yes.
But the other theory is that it's Dorothy Parker, because people who met her socially, basically her being friends with them was kind of like, oh, okay, you're cool. And so I think that's much more plausible. And
I think so, don't you?
I mean, if your name becomes a watchword for I'm a safe and decent person, you've done something right. Yep.
Yeah, your time on earth was valid. Yeah, love that. Yeah, let's say that. That's nicer. I get that over the rainbow thing, but that's pretty cool. Love that. Yes. Oh, well, thanks very much, Cara.
My absolute pleasure.
Time and the beautiful pictures. We'll put those on the Instagram so you can see the beautiful, and always quite poised as well.
Yeah, quite statuesque. I love my favorite is the one with the dog. I hope that we can get that one on there.
Yeah.
So sassy.
Well, thank you so much, and thanks for listening.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of She Changed History. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Find us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. If you've got any ideas of women you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please comment on the socials or email us at shechangedhistory@gmail.com. Catch you next time.